Hi, Louie.
Hey, Gavin. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I feel great. We've got our martinis in hand.
We do. We absolutely do.
I gotta say, our last episode, I was a little tips, maybe a little more than tips.
Yeah.
But it was great.
I will say, I first started drinking this martini, and I was like, don't love this experience. And the more sips I have of it, the more I'm like, I think I'm a martini person.
Yeah. That's the thing with drinking. The more you do it, the more you like it.
Absolutely. This is the Mixed Reviews. Welcome to the Mixed Reviews.
Hi, everyone.
We are a podcast in which we talk about a film subject, such as an actor, an actress, a director, or a mini genre. And we talk about the good and we talk about the bad, and then we tell you what's good and what's bad.
Yeah, we mix up the reviews. We have some fun. We are officially out of our spooky season.
Oh, absolutely. We're wearing scarves.
Yeah.
Plaid.
Yeah. The sweaters are out. Okay, guys. But Gavin, we're not alone.
No.
We have a guest here today with us. Please welcome to the stage.
The host of a great podcast that you all should be listening to called Sundays with Cate, which is a Cate Blanchett specific podcast. Murtada.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Murtada, where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from the Lower East Side in New York City.
Oh my God, so far.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. A whole new world out there,
absolutely.
Lower East
Can you
Side.
get there by cab? What's a cab?
What's a cab?
Yeah.
I think you can just cross the bridge.
Yeah. Before we get into this episode, we do have some old business.
Absolutely.
Our last episode was all about zombies. That was our second Halloween spooktacular episode, and I laughed, loved that episode way more than I ever thought I would.
Someone had to.
No. We asked you guys to go online and vote for your favorite zombie movie. My pick, The Night of the Comet, came in at last place with 13%. Gavin's pick, Dawn of the Dead, came in at third place with 21%. We had a lot of love for Other at 28%, and then Shaun of the Dead came in at 38%, which is not surprising.
Yeah, and a lot of the others that we got, by the way, people did actually respond. We got calls for Reanimator. We got calls for the original Night of the Living Dead.
Train to Busan. We had a Paranorman.
Yes.
Hallelujah. And my good friend from home, she said Pontypool.
Yes. Thank you. I love Pontypool, and that makes me happy somebody else has seen it.
There you go. It's just you and her.
Yep.
Murtada, do you have any zombie movie knowledge in your life that you love?
I do not.
Absolutely no.
What's that? Invader Snatcher or something? I like that one.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Yes.
Yeah, that counts.
That counts.
Oh, real quick, too. My friend Kim would very angrily text me to remind me of the movie My Boyfriend's Back, which I totally rewatched for the episode and didn't mention it once. Yeah, early performances by Matthew Fox and Philip Seymour Hoffman, who went on to an amazing career. So.
Yeah, amazing. We had a really fun episode. We also had a bunch of cool, fun, extra stuff on the Instagram about zombies.
Yes, I put up an informal poll. It seems like people like slow zombies more than they like fast zombies.
Slow zombies are the better zombies.
There are some people who voted for fast, though. And,
wrong.
I never want to tell anybody that they're wrong here, but they're wrong.
But they are wrong. They are wrong, in fact. But okay, enough with the spooky. We're going with the ooky. We are back at it again with a titan of our industry.
Absolutely.
A icon legend star. Gavin, who are you talking about today?
Why, since we have Murtada here, we're talking about Cate Blanchett.
Yes.
Murtada, I want to hear you talk about, so obviously you're a fan. What made you not only become a fan, but also made you be I'm going to dedicate an entire podcast to this one woman?
Well, I've been in love with Cate as an actor since I saw her in Elizabeth when that movie came out 21 years ago, something like that. I don't know, something about her. She was so magnetic when I saw her in that movie, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I've just continued watching her movies and following her. And there was a time early in her career after Elizabeth's career where she wasn't doing what I think she was supposed to do. I'm trying to give her notes here. But anyway, and then,
Kate, if you're listening.
The love was confirmed was just the great movies she has done since The Aviator. And the last few years, the double whammy of Blue Jasmine and Carol just confirmed that I was right all along.
Yeah. It's hard to escape her. And it's funny, I was not super familiar with her work I mean, it seems like she's always in conversation for like award season stuff. But truly, I saw Blue Jasmine at the Castro Theater when it came out and was just like, I mean, there's nothing gayer than going to see Blue Jasmine at the Castro Theater in San Francisco. And I mean, I've seen it 4 times now. And then and with this episode, I was like, okay, now finally I have an excuse to go back and watch I had never seen Elizabeth, saw both of them. I had never seen Notes on a Scandal. Isn't that fucking wild?
Oh, that's fucking wild.
So amazing. One of the best.
I know. And I mean, and literally every movie I watched, I was like, damn. Also of note, she is our 3rd Australian actor we've done in a bit. We did Nicole Kidman recently.
Chris Hemsworth.
We did Chris Hemsworth. And
who pales in comparison. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, Chris is not quite on the same level.
No.
But they were together in Thor.
Yeah, true.
So, true. Cute for him.
It's funny because Kate and Nicole are always sort of trading who's the best Australian actor among them. And Nicole always says it's Kate because she has said when she did Lion, somebody asked her, everybody in Australia wants you to play them. She's like, no, they want Cate Blanchett to play them. But this particular woman wanted me.
And Naomi Watts is
not on the level.
Yeah, right, okay. Do we have anything else to kind of get out of the way before we get into the rewind?
No, I just real quick. I mean, the thing that I like about Cate Blanchett is she is such a force. Like she's more than an actor, and it's really strange, especially watching so many of these films in such a close proximity to each other. There is an energy, and it's very. I don't know if we've done somebody, and this is our 57th episode. I don't know if we've done anybody that the camera loves as much as Cate Blanchett. And she sweeps into these films regardless of how large her role is. Oh yeah. And just changes the energy.
Yeah, I will say, I think, and she's a very different actress, but I think Anne Hathaway maybe gives me the same, the camera I think loves Anne Hathaway.
Okay, yeah.
But I think,
because I was like, where are you going with this?
But Cate Blanchett is way more intense and severe.
Yeah.
And I think she has a greater control of her instrument than Anne does. And I love them both. They're just very different. But what you mentioning actors that feel just natural on screen, there are very few people that come to mind. Cate Blanchett, for sure. And it's funny, when I was watching, I was like, man, she's so unlike any other actor, male or female, whatever. She's in these characters. When I see a movie, I'm not like, oh, look at that Cate Blanchett. I'm like, damn, she is gone. She is a gone girl in each of these movies.
And she's one of the very few actors who always knows how to fill the frame, which is not something that a lot of people pay attention to. But she acts with her whole body, but more than that, she is always conscious of where she is in the frame, and it always gives you something extra. And I think when she works with a director who is also into the frame and into the mise-en-scène like Scorsese or particularly Todd Haynes, then you really see the magic they can make together.
Yeah, a lot of magic in her career. Why don't we jump into our rewind?
Absolutely. Catherine Elise Blanchett.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a very elegant name.
Absolutely. Basically royalty.
Yeah.
Named royalty. She was born on the 14th of May in 1969 in a Melbourne suburb known as Ivanhoe.
I believe it's pronounced Melbourne.
Yeah. Don't do that. No. Her mother, June Blanchett, is Australian, and her father, Robert DeWitt Blanchett Jr., is from Texas.
Yes, sir.
But he was a United States Navy chief, petty officer, and he met her when his boat broke down in Australia.
Ugh, romance.
I love that.
Ever heard of romance?
Drama from the beginning.
Yes, from the beginning. My boat just broke down, little lady. Can you help me? I'm going to play that role.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're destined for some sort of celebrity when your backstory is basically a Merchant Ivory picture.
Yeah. Hello? Literally, oh my God, what if Cate Blanchett plays her mom in a movie?
Her father eventually became an advertising executive, and her mother was a property developer and teacher. When Blanchett was 10, her father died of a heart attack, which I can't... Listen, my dad died when I was 25, and it is, still a crazy, sore spot in my life. So I cannot imagine what that does to someone.
I think what I read was that he literally went to work one day, kissed the kids goodbye, and had a heart attack like at work out of like this the blue, which is just maybe the most like horrifying, like, you know, you just never know. And it's she talks, there's been a lot of interviews where they talk to her about it.
I was 10, my sister was 8, and my brother was 12, 11. And my mum had to go off and finally turn the life support system off from my father. And her co-worker was in there, and bless his socks, he was only trying to do the right thing. And he sat us down, and of course he was very upset himself. And he said to us, I remember him pointing the finger, and he said, your mother has got a very tough time ahead of her. You all have to be very, very good. And he was only trying to look after my mother, and there was no malice in it at all. But somehow, that's the sense of I have to be a really good girl, I have to be really responsible.
She was kind of a rebel early on in life. You know, her mother's raising her and her brother and sister by herself, and you know, she has a self-described penchant for dressing in quote unquote masculine clothing, and she went through a lot of phases during her teenage years. She shaved her head at one point. You know, I feel like this is the Melissa McCarthy part where we're just like, she was goth.
Yeah, she went to a Hot Topic and said, let's go.
One thing I want to interject here is she always talks about growing up in a house with many women, because after her father died, her maternal grandmother moved in with them, and so she always talks about growing around her mother and grandmother and sister and the influence that has on her.
I love that. And I think I have seen an interview with her saying that, you know, like the head on her shoulder is like where it's at because of the women in her life, and she's had these strong female presences in her life, and so that totally makes sense.
She did her secondary education where she attended the Ivanhoe Girls Grammar School and the Methodist Ladies College, where she explored working and acting, but then she kind of was like, I don't want to do this. And so she studied economics and fine arts at the University of Melbourne, but dropped out after 1 year to travel overseas. She goes to Egypt with a friend, and there's a man there who's like, I need extras for my Egyptian boxing movie.
Yeah.
And she gets a part.
That's, okay, tagging, calling an audible a foul. I just read this interview with her, and she was like, oh, the boxing movie legend. She's like, it's not true.
Oh,
what?
Really?
She's
in it. I've seen the movie. It's on YouTube.
She says, I swear to God, it's a Guardian article I just read, like on the bus over here. She says, you know, I was really desperate for money. We had nothing. Like, I couldn't even pay rent for the week. And it was like a Scottish guy, you know, and he wanted extras for a movie that spoke English. And she was like, I needed the money. It was like, it was like literally 5 Egyptian pounds. So she said she went, and she was like, it was so hot and boring that I just left. And
I have heard her say that, but
and the interviewer said, so you're not in the movie? And she's like, no, I'm not.
Counterpoint. She told this interview on David Letterman and says she's in the movie.
I had no money, and I needed some money to stay for a week longer in Cairo. Right. And he was recruiting American-looking extras to be in an Egyptian boxing film. And they were going to pay like two Egyptian pounds, which would have been paid my rent for the week. And I said, sure. And you're going to get free falafel, so you're getting it fed. And it was so boring. The director actually had one of those megaphones with director written in Arabic on the side. I don't know what they did. They sort of had this boxer, and the Egyptian crowd who were cheering the Egyptian boxer were amazing. Mm-hmm. Those extras were phenomenal. Yeah. And then when it got to us, we had given these pom-poms, and they were going, telling us to cheer, and we just went, it was so embarrassing. We just went, yay. And they didn't feed us, and so I left.
Kate, what is the truth?
I have 2 anecdotes about this. The first one is that I grew up in Sudan, so we get Egyptian movies all the time. This movie called Kaburia was a very big hit of its time, which is early 90s, something like that. I've seen it. I can't say I know Kate, or there is a blonde woman in one scene. So it could be her, it could be somewhere else. And that scene is on YouTube. The second,
it is. I watched it too.
Yes. The second thing, I was at the New York Film Festival in 2003, where she was right after Blue Jasmine came out. So she was the start of her Oscar campaign, and the New York Film Festival did a tribute evening with her interview on stage that I went to. And at the Q&A, somebody stood up and raised their hand. And they told the story about the boxing movie. He raised his hand, asked a question, and he's like, I don't have a questions, but I'm the director of that movie.
Holy shit.
Yes. And he's like, and because she told the story about how he would scream at them with a bullhorn. And he's like, I just wanted to apologize for the bullhorn.
Oh my God. Who knows?
I am happy that we have cleared the air on that one.
Oh yeah, she says, I went along and there was an Arabic guy with a megaphone, like something out of a silent movie, and it was so hot and so boring that I left. So she was never in the boxing movie? No, she groans. But you can say that if you want. Print the legend of the boxing movie.
She's so funny. This is going to be a sidebar, and we'll get back to her history in a moment. She is so funny and so good in interviews, and she does not suffer any fools. I mean, everybody knows the very legendary her and Sarah Paulson on the Today Show. Mm-hmm. There's a great Actors on YouTube with it's her and Ian McKellen,
like the best old friends.
Yes.
Like, oh my God,
yeah, absolute Judies, just the
best.
To be American, you have to be American from your feet through to your head, don't you feel?
Yes.
But now you can do that. Well, I ought to be able to do that, but it's just the bloody voice gets in the way.
But don't you know?
Think of what a career I could have had if I could.
Yes.
Could I have passed for an
Your
American?
career has been so terrible and disappointing and limiting.
She gets back to Australia and she moves to Sydney, and she's enrolled in the National Institute of Dramatic Arts to pursue acting because she's now gotten this acting bug from an Egyptian movie she may or may not have been in.
She does admit that she was. She's like, I'm giving myself 5 years to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so she was, whether or not she was in this movie or not, which she maybe was, right. She was like, I want to do this.
So she graduates in 92 when I was 9. It's so, that's, the only reason I say that is it's so weird to me that her career, like, this is not the normal path for an actor.
Right.
This is late for an actor. And most people, they basically consider their career dead if they started as late as she did. That's not true, and you should never think that way if you're an aspiring actor, but it's interesting to note that, like, yes, it can be done.
Yeah.
Especially if you're Cate Blanchett.
Yeah, and what's great, I mean, what I love and admire is, like, she went to school, and she went to, she's obviously a beautiful woman, but she was like, I want to go to where the greats are and really hone my craft. And I think I also read that she said, I wanted to start from scratch. Like, I needed to, like, really, get to the bottom of, like, who I was and find out how to be an actor. And bitch, hello?
You know what other actor started their career late after they finished acting school? Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep. There
Absolutely.
you go.
She doesn't start out in films. And we're going to take a little deeper dive into this in a moment. But, like, theater is Cate Blanchett's mistress. Her first major stage role is opposite Geoffrey Rush in Oleana, the David Mamet play for the Sydney Theatre Company. She's also one of the minor characters in Elektra. And 2 weeks into rehearsals, the actress playing the lead drops out. And the director, Lindy Davis, offers Cate Blanchett the role. Yeah. So she's having a year.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, you just graduated from, drama school, and you're in these two, like, really, I mean, it was the premiere of that David Mamet play, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it was huge. I mean, that's what people got notes for. And she talks about how there was a moment where she, like, giggled on stage at someone, like, tripping, and the director, like, laid into her. And she realized, and she was, like, sobbing, and she realized, like, it's not about me, it's about the work. And I think that was really formative for her, because she always, like, tells a story about how whatever, story I'm telling, it's not about me, it's about letting the work speak for itself. And she's very generous in that way, She really feels like she's a vehicle for, whether it's a movie or something on a stage.
Absolutely.
And she was a phenomenon from the beginning. Like those two plays that you mentioned, the reviews for them where it was just like a phenomenon is born for the Australian stage.
It was very, who's that girl? la, la, la.
And not only is it a phenomenon, she's awarded for those roles. She is awarded Best Newcomer Award for a role in Kafka's Dances, and she wins Best Actress Award for Oleana, and that's the first time that anybody has won in both of those categories.
Right, in the same year.
Yeah, absolutely. So she is, like, breaking things down already. keeps doing theater, loves the theater, but starts making appearances on Australian TV. She does, the miniseries Heartland, the miniseries Border Town with Hugo Weaving, and she basically just starts to pop up everywhere. Eventually, she lands her first film role, which is in the movie Paradise Road, directed by Bruce Beresford. Now, I don't know if either of you have seen Paradise Road.
I kept seeing it, but I did not actually watch it. Starring Glenn Close, right?
Yes.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen the video of her taking Juliana Margulies as her date to the Talented Mr. Ripley premiere, because apparently they became friends during Paradise Road.
Which is funny, because that movie is a great ensemble movie full of amazing actresses and Juliana Margulies. Wow. Sorry. I would say there are some defined leads, them being Glenn Close. An argument could be made for Frances McDormand, but Cate Blanchett's a lead in this movie, and I feel like you can't not argue that. She's the first person you see in the film. She has one of the first lines in the film. Wow. She's all throughout it, and she's so good. So I can't imagine making your first major film opposite Glenn Close, and you're a fucking lead.
Yeah.
A country girl. I knew it.
How?
They're always shy. You blushed when I asked you to dance.
I did not. It's just hot.
Have you a boyfriend?
Yes. Oh, no. I had one, but he's in Egypt or somewhere.
Egypt? Well, forget him. He's probably chasing some dusky maiden around the pyramids by now.
In 97, she stars opposite Ray Fiennes in Gillian Armstrong's Oscar and Lucinda, which is another lead. And, it earns her first AFI Award nomination for Best Leading Actress. She won the AFI Best Actress Award in the same year for her role as Lizzie in the romantic comedy Thank God He Met Lizzie, which I also saw and did not love.
Okay.
She does 3 movies in 97, so also she's like right out the gate.
Yeah.
Because Paradise Road, Thank God I Met Lizzie, Oscar and Lucinda, same year. That's a lot. I mean, especially for somebody she's in these movies a lot.
Right. She was a busy girl. I mean, and she had said, though, like, I'm gonna try. And she said she was shocked at how, it came together for her. She's, I don't think she had big dreams. I think she thought she was going to be like a regional actress and doing theater, which she said she was fine with. And when the movie role started coming in, she was just kind of like dumbfounded. And and we're getting to like Elizabeth, which was her breakthrough performance.
Which is the next year.
Yeah.
Let me say one thing about Thank God He Met Lizzie. Her co-star in that is Richard Roxburgh. And they are kind of the Tracy and Hepburn of Australian theater, because they made that movie, but they've also made a lot of theater together throughout the years, including until last year when they made their Broadway debut together in The Present.
So yes, 98 comes around. She plays Queen Elizabeth I of England in the movie Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Which is the film with the most 90s opening credits I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah. Very 90s movie.
Yes.
But she said, she's like, I thought as soon as it was over, I thought my career was over.
What?
Yeah. She was like, I didn't think I was she's like, I had no idea what I was doing. I think she said in this same interview, maybe this interview was a lie, but she was like, I called my agent and I was like, I think my career might be over. And again, she was shocked that, people loved it and she got all these awards and it was her big breakthrough.
It's so funny because she's so good in it. There's a ton of good performances. And me joking about the 90s opening credits is not to say it's a good movie. It's a really good movie.
It is. And it was her international breakout, and it's the reason I fell in love with her. She's so amazing playing Elizabeth, and she charts that journey of the young ingenue teenage Elizabeth to the monarch Elizabeth that we know of so well. She's amazing in Elizabeth.
For God's sake, you are still my Elizabeth!
I am not your Elizabeth. I am no man's Elizabeth. And if you think to rule her, you are mistaken. I will have one mistress here. And no master!
she does physically change in that movie. I forgot how genuinely like young she looks in that. I mean, everybody does. I was like Jeffrey Rush without wrinkles. But she looks so young at the beginning of that movie, and when she becomes Elizabeth the First, it's a physical transformation, and that's all her.
Yeah. Is it Ralph Fiennes?
No, it's Joseph Fiennes.
Okay, so Joseph Fiennes, who also was in Shakespeare in Love playing Shakespeare.
Yes, correct.
But like basically the same. I mean, every time I see him, I'm like, oh, it's you. Again.
The lesser Fiennes.
I was just going to say, I'm sure Ray Fiennes also says that when he sees his brother. Well, it's you.
It's you. Again. A very 90s actor, you know,
yes.
like.
And Joseph Fiennes not only 90s. He's basically only 98. It's those two movies. Yeah. And that's
it. Drag him.
So I did my first episode of my podcast is about Elizabeth. And we talked a lot about why that movie, it was a hit, a substantial hit, and it got all these Oscar nominations. And a lot of it is because it was the first time that you saw British royalty in this visceral way. Like they're carnal, they're violent. It was not a staid, polite court, costume drama.
In terms of awards for that, she earned a Golden Globe Award and a British Academy Award, BAFTA, and her first Screen Actors Guild and Academy Award nominations for Best Actress. The following year...
Can I just say, I still haven't forgiven Gwyneth Paltrow for winning that year? Even though Cate has 2 Oscars, but still, that Oscar is Cate's.
Literally, I saw an interview, it was like this British show, and the interviewer was like, so do you and Gwyneth Paltrow, like, what's the deal with that? Like, you acted circles around her in that role.
Have you ever laughed with her about it? Because there was a lot of hoo-ha about it at the time.
Oh, yes, I mean, I think these things are all about timing, and my agent actually had a T-shirt made up before the event saying it was rigged, we was robbed. Andrew threatened to wear it underneath his thing, but no, I think it's great to be nominated for these things, but I don't know what it does to win them. Because are you more entitled to win it than anyone else?
In 99, and I only bring this up, she does a short film called Bangers. Now, I only bring this up because it was written and directed by her husband, Andrew Upton. And they produced it together. And then she starts doing Hollywood fare. And this is the period that you're mentioning, Murtada, that she gets all this acclaim for playing Queen Elizabeth. And she does Pushing Tin with Billy Bob Thornton and John Cusack. She does do Talented Mr. Ripley the next year, which
great,
I was gonna say that's in line. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, she says at this time, like after Elizabeth, she said she got offered every role under the sun to be in a costume drama, and she was like, it's the same thing. And she says, I didn't realize how quickly you could become typecast. And so she turned down all of those, and she's like, I didn't care if I died on page 9. I wanted, characters that were interesting and weird and, to really show her range. And I think she really did that.
Yeah, and if you look at all those movies that she did after Elizabeth, there's nothing in common. The genres are all different. The directors are all different. The actors. But the one thing that they have in common is that they are the anti-Elizabeth. The characters are so far from Elizabeth.
I mean, in Talented Miss Ripley, she is not... I mean, Gwyneth Paltrow is the female lead in that movie.
Yeah.
She's not in it a lot. I was like, I guess I have to fucking watch another Matt Damon movie. God.
If there's a Matt Damon movie you have to watch, it's a good one. It's not... Yeah.
It's the one where he's a twink in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's his best part ever and his best performance.
Agree. Made me so sad, though.
Some people are sick, Louie.
Some people are gay, Gavin.
That's not what I meant. Don't misconstrue my words.
We have a theory that we came to in the episode that I did on Talent Mr. Ripley with Jose Solis, and is that Martin Scorsese probably saw her in that and cast her in The Aviator, because the way that she plays Meredith Logue, it's very East Coast, sort of haughty grandeur that's kind of like Katharine Hepburn.
The truth is that if you've had money your entire life, even if you despise it, which we do, agreed? You're only truly comfortable around other people who have it and despise it.
I know.
I've never admitted that to anyone.
She gets a BAFTA nomination for that role, but it's really not until 2001's The Lord of the Rings, where she gets like public consciousness. I feel like, I mean, she had the awards consciousness. Everybody knew who she was. She was like a tier actress.
Right.
She's suddenly like not just a prestige actress. Right, well, she's in this giant fantasy.
Well, honestly, now it's like money. Like, you know, I've seen a smattering of the Lord of the Rings movies. I'm not a Lord of the Rings person. Oh. I am happy if you are.
I feel that way about the Hobbit film. I've seen the Lord of the Rings movies. I watched the first Hobbit movie and was like, I'm out. Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
But I haven't seen the Hobbit, but I've seen all the Lord of the Rings. They were good.
But if you're gonna hire someone to be like this elegant, beautiful, regal elf person, she's the one.
And that fun fact, that scene where she gives that monologue about being a dark queen and whatever, and she turns all evil, no special effects. She just did it on her own.
Just her.
Absolutely. She just very talented.
And what's funny is she said, she's like, I just wanted to work with Peter Jackson, you know?
Yes.
And that's what I love. She loves working with, I mean, we'll see this through her career. She's working with all these like really big time directors who have points of view, who have,
well, I mean, her entire career is like, after Elizabeth is a who's who, you know, you have Jim Jarmusch and Joel Schumacher, Ron Howard, Wes Anderson, Martin Scorsese, and the list goes on and on. Todd Haynes, who she refers to as her girlfriend, and I love that.
God.
So yes, she plays Galadriel in The Lord of the Rings. In 2002, she appeared in Tom Tykwer's Heaven, with Giovanni Ribisi, which,
can I just say, I loved Heaven.
Oh, so good.
I thought it was so weird, but so good.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, what a beautiful movie. And Ribisi, so sexy.
I went to my regular Italian consultant, because once again, he went to undergrad for Italian, Dan Walber. Okay. And he said, Kate's accent, like, because that movie's majorly in Italian, and he said her accent's really good, and just she occasionally makes a couple like beginner Italian mistakes, but also she's playing British. Giovanni Ribisi is playing full-blooded Italian, and he was like, about him.
I don't care. That movie is so fucking weird, but so good. I'm very sad that apparently it was going to be part of a trilogy, but the screenwriter had passed away.
Krzysztof Kieslowski, I know I'm fucking that up. I love him. So like, Dan told me, like, he's like, no one can pronounce Polish, so don't feel bad. You're gonna fuck it up regardless.
Right. Heaven, small movie. Go see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Coffee and Cigarettes for Jim Jarmusch,
which is one of her funniest performances. Like, Kate is not known for doing comedy, and she doesn't do a lot of comedy, but Coffee and Cigarettes is so funny. It's on YouTube. It's one scene she plays herself and her cousin. That's really who she plays. It's so funny. Everyone should see it.
It's funny. I can't remember which guest of yours it was. I think it might have been Manuel, who, when you asked him who his favorite screen partner was for Cate Blanchett, and he said Cate Blanchett.
That was Chris File.
It was Chris. It was Chris. I should have known. Yeah, it's I mean, it's so good. I mean, love you, man.
Shout out to Chris. We love you.
Yeah. Former guest on our show as well. Yeah. And now in 2005, she wins her first Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, portraying Katharine Hepburn in Martin Scorsese's The Aviator. It's the first time anybody has ever won portraying a previous Academy Award winner.
Yeah.
I listened to your episode on The Aviator. I have always been a little sour on her performance. I know I am in the minority. I am well aware.
Okay.
And I will say, Murtada, your episode on The Aviator, which if you guys haven't listened to, I highly recommend listening to it, pushed me more towards the positive camp.
Oh, that's great. We're doing the good work.
Yeah, exactly.
The Lord's work. Murtada, so I had never seen The Aviator. Another movie that I was like, ugh, if I have to see a Leonardo DiCaprio movie, I guess.
All 9 hours of it.
Yeah, but I did, and I was like, damn, so her first scene is like just like talking. She is just so like radiant, and she uses that like voice to full effect. She's got that really great like kind of baritone voice.
Yeah.
and she turns up her masculinity like to 11, and she can fucking wear the shit out of some pants.
Yeah.
It's a great performance because it's a mix of mimicry, because Katharine Hepburn is somebody who's so well known as a movie star, and you can't play Katharine Hepburn without doing a Katharine Hepburn imitation. She does the imitation and the mimicry, but she also gives it so much more. The voice work is so excellent. She gets the Katharine Hepburn very unique voice, but also she gives it vulnerability, especially later in the film.
I've met someone, I've fallen in love, and I'm moving out. If I could make it any more gentle, I would. But I can't, so there we both are. Let's be honest. It's all been a grand adventure, but it couldn't possibly last. We're too alike, you and I.
You met someone?
Someone more appropriate to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, fuck me, I like The Aviator.
No, I mean, I actually do. I was going to say, I did think it was funny on your episode about The Aviators. You both seem to be a little more negative on the movie itself. I actually do really like the movie as well. I think my issue was, and you kind of, like I said, pushed me in the other direction, is that I felt too much of the mimicry and not enough of the real person. And after listening to your episode, I went back and rewatched her scenes, and I was like, you know what? There is a performance there, and I'm being too harsh because I'm being really precious about my thoughts and opinions on Katharine Hepburn and how I think. And I was like, no, she is giving a performance, and I'm the problem here.
I think it's her riskiest performance, because it's very hard to play someone that people know so well. And not only know so well, but you're playing her in the same medium. There are hundreds of films of Katharine Hepburn. It's not like playing Lincoln or any other biopic. You are playing a movie star who people love. So you have to give a nod to the screen persona, but you also have to find the person. And I think
it's a risky text. Yeah. It's a risky text.
She lends her Oscar statuette, because technically you can't give an Oscar away. You have to offer it back to the Academy, and for $1, I think it is, or however much.
People have sold their Oscars.
Yeah, you're not supposed to. That's the whole contract, though. But she has loaned it to the Australian Centre for the Moving Image, and that's where it is now. The same year, she wins an Australian Film Institute Award for Best Actress for her role as Tracy Hart in the movie Little Fish, which was co-produced by her husband's production company, Dirty Films. I don't know if I'm going to get another chance to talk about this, but I watched Little Fish, and I don't know anybody else's experiences with addicts in their life, but I thought her performance as a recovering heroin addict was so fucking good. And I've seen some people be a little dour about it, and I was like, if you've ever met anybody, she nails it. And it's not easy.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't finish the movie. I got maybe halfway through. And my main takeaway was man, I love that she loves her home. Mm-hmm. I love that she loves her community. I love that she made this movie that is showing Australians, which include, Asian and Pacific Islanders and that community that make up such a big part of Australia that you don't get to see. When you think of Australian cinema, you don't get to see that community. And here in this movie that she made with her husband, they are not only showing that part, but they are a big part of that movie.
And it's the grittiest film and performance she has ever given, which is, you go from the glamour of Katharine Hepburn to how gritty she is as Tracy Hart in Little Fish within the same year. Talk about range. And I think she should make more Australian movies. I love that performance.
I agree.
I was going to say, hearing her speak in her own voice and her own accent,
which is funny because she doesn't even always give interviews in her own voice.
Yeah, her accent work is impeccable.
Yeah, she's very.
Nicole Kidman has given lots of roles where it's very shaky quaky.
Well, I was gonna compare her to Nicole Kidman. I was gonna be like, Nicole Kidman loves wigs. Mm-hmm. Cate Blanchett loves accurate accent work.
Yeah, and looking at her, her body of work, the accents she's done are from everywhere, and I have not seen one movie where I'm like, oh, that accent's bad. Not one. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but she
GIF,
nails it.
Did you guys see the GIF? Because that's a perfect Southern accent.
I've seen the GIF.
Yeah.
I watched the GIF for when we did the Keanu Reeves episode.
Oh, okay. I mean, literally, I was like, if the girl can do one thing, it's accent work.
I think her goofiest accent, if we had to play this game, would be maybe Indiana Jones, and even that is like, it's like not, it's fun because it is almost like
Camp.
It's like Boris and Natasha style Russian.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah.
She always takes it further. I think it's the whole voice. She is very expert. We haven't gotten to Benjamin Button yet, but that's where the accent meets the voice. Because she charts somebody from being a teenager until being in their 90s, while they're also from New Orleans. So she mixes the accent with the voice work of like a young person to a middle-aged person to a very old person. All done expertly.
You have Babel for Inarritu, and she does the Good German for Steven Soderbergh, and then she does Notes on a Scandal, which she's against Dame Judi Dench, and it is fire, that movie.
Like, that movie, it slaps, it's not long, it's a very tight movie. I don't even know what to say that movie.
The first year I got out of college, I was a news producer for a morning show in Albany, New York. And so I would work from midnight until 10 a.m. the next day. And the only time I would have to see movies would be immediately after work. So I went to the Crossgates Mall Cinema and saw Notes on a Scandal at like 11 a.m., tired out of my mind. And like I was enwrapped by that film.
I have seen that film so many times. If I put it on, I'll be saying the words with both her and Judy. I think it is the Whatever Happened to Baby Jane of our time. It is such a camp classic.
Also, I would pay good money to watch Murtada do the Shadowcast version.
Yes, please. Murtada, when is your one-woman show?
Yeah, I need to do it.
She received her third Academy Award nomination for performance in that movie.
As Sheba.
Yes.
Sheba Hart. You're not young.
Yes. Coming to Broadway soon. In 2007, Blanchett was named by Times Magazine's one of the 100 most influential people in the world, and one of the most successful actresses by Forbes magazine. She starts really ramping up the work here. She does the sequel to Elizabeth: The Golden Age in 2007. She does one of the incarnations of Bob Dylan, in which she plays Jude Quinn for Todd Haynes' film I'm Not There. And she wins the Volpe Cup for Best Actress at the Venice Film Festival for that role. The Independent Spirit and Golden Globe Best Supporting Actress Awards for that portrayal. So, like, she's clearly... She's not going unnoticed for these things.
Yeah, and she was double Oscar nominated. And that's the year when I think it coalesced to a lot of people just because they saw her as Elizabeth again and as Bob Dylan within a few weeks of each other. So it just coalesced in people's minds that she is an actress with great range and one of the best of her generation, if not the best.
You know, I didn't come out of some cereal box. There's no one out there who's ever going to be converted by a song. There's no Phil Oakes song that's going to keep a movement moving, you know, or a picket line picketing. His songs acts of personal conscience. Like burning a draft card or burning yourself. Doesn't do a damn thing.
Can you just imagine, like, being Cate Blanchett walking into the Oscars and be like, yeah, period dramas, whatever, playing, like, biopic, but, like, a man, sure, no big deal. Like, bitch!
It's a power move.
That's a power move. That's a stunt.
Working with every famous director currently working. Mentioned Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, in which she plays, the evil Dr. Irina Spalko, which Spielberg has said is his favorite villain of the series.
Yeah.
Sure, Steven.
Sure, Steven. Make better movies.
And then we're up to Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which I just listened to your episode today. I had actually never seen it before this episode, and it's not because I didn't want to. I like David Fincher. I'm not part of the bro-y David Fincher culture, but it's the only Fincher movie I hadn't seen. It just sort of slipped by me, and I think the running time really made me be
It is very long.
I don't know.
I must admit, I did not get to it because I knew it was very long, and I was like, okay, I could either commit to watching this or watch a lot of the other ones that I needed to do. Like, I needed to do more homework, and I still need to do more homework. But Murtada talking about the range she has in this is making me like, fuck, I should have seen it.
Yeah, the thing is with this part, it's very tricky, and I think it's not thought of as one of her signature parts because she's the girl, and it's basically she's the love interest. But also, it's such a weird love story, and nothing happens to Brad's character except aging backwards, but everything happens to her character.
I was so happy that you mentioned that because... Okay, and I think the only thing missing from that episode of you talking about the Curious Case of Benjamin Button is the movie it's her as the wraparound story, but it is his diary, and we basically learn nothing about his interior life, even though it's being read from his diary. And I think that's a crazy thing that it's like, where else do you write your innermost thoughts than your journal or your diary? And basically it's almost like he's just cataloging what he did each day.
Yeah. It's a weird movie. It's a very weird movie.
Weird movie. And I have one more like kind of thing about it is I think they were being really conscious about the fact that they didn't want her to be the woman who gave up her life for a man, which is smart. But that the car running her over and breaking her leg so she can't dance anymore feels like they had to invent something to make her the woman, to give up her life, to dedicate it to him. Yeah. And I was like, bitch.
Spoiler alert, Gavin.
Sorry. Yeah, I loved her performance. And like you said, she does so much heavy lifting. She wears like 80 pounds of old age makeup in the wraparound story, which once again, as you mentioned on your episode, I don't understand because she's not that old.
Right.
She looks 160.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. She's playing like 80 something and they're like, sure, I don't know, she's dust.
And here we come to, she's on top of the world. She's working with all these directors, all these big movies. And she's like, I'm taking time off to go run the Sydney Theatre Company.
Yeah, absolutely. In 2008, her and her husband they're like, we're gonna go be co-CEOs and artistic directors of the Sydney Theatre Company. And she basically is like, we're gonna run things. Now, admittedly, she waits a year and then she starts acting in those productions.
Right. Do we know like what? So the Sydney Theatre Company, were they just like looking for someone to?
I'm assuming so.
Buy them?
I mean, that happens. That happens with institutions all the time.
I wish I knew more dramaturgy about her and her husband being like, babe, did you hear that the Sydney Theatre?
I know, because it does feel, and everything
I think they were offered the job. They were just offered the job of running the theater for whatever time.
I think we were ambushed and surprised by the offer, and it felt it would have been an act of cowardice if we didn't take it up. And I think that suddenly, from being an actress of international standing and importance, I was suddenly a celebrity, a la Kim Kardashian. And it's interesting the way you suddenly get smaller breasts, but you realise how you get pigeonholed very quickly. And I think that there was a little bit of argy-bargy, but you have to have a thick skin. And there was a lot to do, and we got on with doing it. And I think that the impact and the work has been the proof.
Her first love is theater, and so she, like you said, she waited a year and then she started performing in the productions.
Absolutely. And the first thing she does is Tennessee Williams' Streetcar Named Desire, directed by Liv Ullmann. And what's really funny is, I guess, essentially the story is that Liv Ullmann wanted to do a film adaptation of A Doll's House, and it fell sort of by the wayside, and Blanchett was like, hey, let's do Streetcar. And Liv Ullmann was like, fuck yes, girl. So
I've seen that production. It came to Brooklyn. She is amazing in it. It's a great performance, and it's the Liv Ullmann kind of it is that it made it more Blanche's story. And not Stanley's, really. Because Stanley's always, Blanche is great too, but Stanley is the gotcha part. But in this production, it was more about Blanche. And
who played Stanley? Was it Liev Schreiber?
Stanley was Joel Edgerton.
Yes.
Same thing.
Oh, Australia's Liev Schreiber.
Right, great.
Yeah.
Terrible.
It's an all-Australian cast.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I read that Meryl Streep saw the performance and was like, I thought I knew this show. I thought I knew the lines. She's like, I had never seen Streetcar until I saw it with Cate Blanchett.
Yeah.
She has redefined the role.
That's basically exactly what she said. The only other thing that she said is she took the layers of a person and just peeled them away.
Yeah. I mean, imagine taking an American classic that is every actor knows.
Yeah.
And then reinventing it and making like the definitive performance like all these years after it's premiered.
It's funny. I remember when it came to Brooklyn, and that's one of my biggest regrets, Murtada. So I am very jealous, and I'm not planning on murdering you and taking your life. I'm just that's not what
I am biased, but it's the best performance I've ever seen on stage.
Wow.
I mean, you're not alone. Jane Fonda agrees. You know, Meryl Streep agrees.
I mean, I just saw Beetlejuice on Broadway, so I don't know.
She does Robin Hood with Ridley Scott. She does Joe Wright's Hannah, which I love.
She did it in her downtime from running the Sydney Theatre Company. She had like a few weeks here and there, and she's like, okay, I'll do Robin Hood and Hannah.
Exactly. She's just picking up the phone and being like, yeah, Joe, I've got like 15 minutes.
Sure, fine.
Yeah, sure. And she continues just like literally production after production after production. She does Uncle Vanya, which also transfers over here.
Which is Richard Roxburgh.
Yes, yeah.
There
and she I found an interview where she said the director of that gave her one of her favorite piece of acting advice.
He said to us on opening night, he said, you know all those moments, all those laughs that you're getting, all those moments that you think, I can't wait for this moment to come up. Don't do them tonight. He said, don't do them and see what happens. And it could be awful. And we may get the worst reviews we're ever going to get, but don't get addicted to the laughs and don't get addicted to those moments that work. Search again for the moments that you think and risk being in that really uncomfortable place where you don't know what's going to happen next. I thought, wow, that's brave.
And that's the other thing that I love about her. She's so good. She's such an established actor at this point, and she's still like admitting to learning things about her own craft.
Yeah.
You mentioned before we started recording that you sort of think her love isn't actually film, that it's theater. And I agree. I feel like in every interview she has, she finds a way to bring up that she's a creature of the theater.
Right.
She is, and she started first in the theater, and I think I think that film just happened to her because she was so good in theater, and they started casting her, and then it was like, you know, she can't say no to Scorsese or Spielberg or Fincher or whoever. But she always goes back to the theater. She's really committed. Like, I don't think she goes more than 2 years without being on stage.
And look, every actor's different, but for me, when you work primarily in the film industry, there's a structure, an apparatus around that industry that can infantilize one. And look, you can't take it personally. They just don't want you to ride that motorbike because if you have an accident, they can't shoot tomorrow. So it's not really about you as a human being, it's about you as an object. But because there's, you know, there's a lot of money involved, I think, and it's there's a time pressure on it that you can get infantilized by it. And you get, but more importantly for me as a stage actor, you can get very dislocated from your audience.
And we are so lucky for it.
Absolutely. But I would love that. I would love to see her being like, no, Mr. Scorsese, I'm too busy.
Right.
I have a production of The Little Foxes to do. Actually, I can see her doing that. In 2013, she...
This is the best year of her career. This is the year it all comes together. All those years, all those stage productions, all those days with Scorsese and Fincher and whoever, and Todd Haynes, it all comes together that year.
Absolutely. And she does Woody Allen's Blue Jasmine, to which, like, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm finally getting to see her play Blanche Dubois on screen. But as she has said, Woody didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, not that I want to praise Woody Allen too much on it. We clapped for Nicole Kidman passing on Woody Allen, so we'll just say he's involved in the movie somehow. But he did, apparently he told her, like, he was like, I don't want it, don't tell me about Blanche.
Yeah. I read that too, and I mean, listen, we're going to talk about Blue Jasmine.
Yeah.
We'll probably have to talk about how we talk about Woody Allen.
Yeah.
But the movie's a fucking banger.
It really is.
We'll put a pin in it because she's coming back.
Forget who wrote it and directed. If we don't ascribe to the auteur theory, this movie is a Cate Blanchett movie. It's not Woody Allen's Blue Jasmine. It's Cate Blanchett's Blue Jasmine. The movie lives and dies with that performance. The performance is the movie. So he might have written the words, he might have been on set, but it's Cate on screen, and that's why you watch the movie.
She gets 40 industry and critical awards. Like, it's a lot. She wins the Academy Award for Best Actress. Her win made her just the 6th actress to win an Oscar in both acting categories, and the 3rd to win Best Actress after Best Supporting Actress, and the first Australian to win more than one acting Oscar. Mm-hmm. Once again, sorry, Chris Hemsworth.
Sorry.
You're working really hard, we know. And, after that, she does The Monuments Men with Matt Damon and George Clooney. But the less said about that movie, the better. She does a voice in How to Train Your Dragon 2. She does a couple Terrence Malick films shot back-to-back that were originally meant to be one film. If you ever expect me to watch a modern Terrence Malick movie, you are mistaken.
Never. Yeah. I tried watching one for
Natalie Portman.
And
you gave that movie your 1-star review, and you didn't even get to Natalie Portman.
Nope,
I don't want to hear it, Louie.
I know. Nope.
Somebody put all Cate's scenes in Night in Cups on YouTube. I don't know if they're still there, but really? When it came out, that's how I saw it.
I should have did that.
That's smart.
So then, then she plays the titular role in Carol.
The titular Carol of Carol.
Based off Patricia Highsmith's The Price of Salt, reuniting with Todd Haynes, starring opposite Rooney Mara. Some say many of your guests on your show, her best scene partner. I would have a hard time disagreeing, honestly.
I think it's Dame Judy.
It might actually be.
I love Carol. I love Rooney, but I have to say the only actor in all of the movies that Cate has been in who has been better than Cate herself in the movie is only Dame Judy. She's the only one who outacted her.
But what I love about that, though, is because I feel like Cate is so generous with the space.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they're chewing on each other. She's so generous and knows who she's with, and they're both able to, play off each other.
Why did you do it? Because I didn't help you collect your cat. You've cost me my family.
Take some responsibility. I gave you exactly what you wanted. You'd still be stuck in that marriage without me.
What?
You can't accept it yet.
You think I wanted to be here with you?
You need me. I'm your friend.
You put me in prison. I could get 2 years.
They'll fly by.
I mean, there are so many movies where you see, I think, Mark Ruffalo's this actor, who tries to, do the thing, and I'm like, girl, relax.
Yeah, take off your shirt. Yeah. Sorry, that's me. Yeah. That's me. Yeah. Sorry.
But there are a lot of actors like that. And I think Cate and Judy are such fucking pros that, you're right, Murtada, they, I don't know, they give each other space, and it's a wonderful thing for it. But anyway, back to Carol.
I mean, I don't even know what needs to be more said about Carol. I'm sure we may talk about it later. I don't know. But it's a movie in which she plays a woman who falls in love with Rooney Mara, and she's married, and it's the 50s, and it's gorgeous, and it's like her 90 millionth collaboration with
Todd Haynes.
Not Todd Haynes, but the costume designer. I can't think of her name.
Oh, is it
Sandy Powell?
Yes.
Powell.
Yeah, and it's so she just knows. I believe she said that Cate Blanchett, you can basically put her in anything, clothes just look great on her.
She's dripping in that movie. It's dripping of glamour.
Yeah, Sandy Powell called her the best clothes wearer in the world.
Yes. And she's right, but I think that's Sandy Powell not giving herself enough credit to, because Sandy Powell is just amazing. I mean, the films are better because Sandy Powell exists.
Her costumes are always amazing. And she has costumed Cate 3 times: The Aviator, Carol, and Cinderella.
She also, in 2016, she does Manifesto for Julian Roosevelt, which is a video installation. It's actually an art project. And she plays 12 different characters delivering different manifestos. There is 13 different characters. I'm sorry. That's 12 different manifestos, 13 characters. There is a film version of it, a 90-minute film version. You can watch it on Amazon. I don't think it works necessarily as a film.
But it's not a film,
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
The video installation was very impressive. As somebody who is a Cate Blanchett fan, you go through these installations, you're walking around, there's 12 of them, and then there is a moment, because they all are playing in a timely manner, there's a moment wherever you are, all 12 and all 13 Cate characters come together in every screen, looking at you from every corner of the installation. It means wherever you turn, it's the 13 Cate Blanchetts, and they're all saying the same thing, and it is magnificent.
Yeah,
Wow.
that sounds great. I have no issue with that.
I think if Cate Blanchett were ever to direct a movie, and she has directed plays with the Sydney Theatre Company, it would be something like Manifesto, because it seems it's the things that she likes. It's very highbrow, it's very avant-garde, but it's also about art, and it's theatrical, and she gets to perform using costumes and makeup and transformation.
She does a production of Andrew Upton's adaptation of Andrew Chekhov's Plentinov called The Present. That transfers to Broadway in 2017, so she makes her Broadway debut. Everybody loves it. She receives a Tony nomination for Best Actress, a Drama Desk Award nomination, and the Drama League Award nomination for the Distinguished Performance Award. Goes back to films, starts doing the bigger thing again. She does Thor Ragnarok for Taika Waititi because she needs a new boat, and she stars with all of female Hollywood in Ocean's 8.
Yes.
And I can totally see why she did that. I know, Louie, you are notorious. You hate that movie, but I think it's fine.
It's so boring.
I get some laughs.
With that cast, you would expect it to be better. Especially like the first Oceans was so fun, and this was just the potential is just unrealized in the result.
Absolutely.
Well, I think there's nothing worse than watching Gary Ross he's like a bad cover band version of Soderbergh. It's just like, why him? Why him?
Why?
Because he's Soderbergh's friend. That's why.
I know.
There
but
you go.
Yeah. And then in 2019, she did Where Did You Go, Bernadette, which I like to refer to Where Did You Go theatrical release.
It was in theaters for less than a month. I've seen it. It's unfairly maligned, and she's great. And the movie doesn't work, especially if you love the book. Richard Linklater, I don't think, was the right person to adapt this book. The book is very funny. It's a satire. He takes a kernel of the ideas that are in the book that he's interested in. He's not interested in the whole. And I think the movie suffers because of that, but she's great in it.
Just talking about her personal life real quick. I mentioned she's married to Andrew Upton. They met in 1996 on the set of a TV show and were married on December 29th of 1997. They have 4 children together, 3 sons and an adopted daughter. All of the sons have amazing names. Dashiell, Roman, and Ignatius.
Hello.
And their daughter is Edith. So, just classic.
Classy.
Yeah.
They have a dog called Carol, which they got after Carol.
Amazing.
Do they really?
Yes.
Oh my God. They're in Manifesto, her 3 sons and her husband. They're like the Republican family that she's delivering the prayer to.
Oh my God.
Which is a different manifesto. They're very funny in it. Because they just look like, just shut the fuck up, let's eat.
Right.
But yeah, she said that they'd been trying to adopt ever since they had their first child, and I love. We've talked about other actors' children before, and in the different ways, and I don't know. It always makes me. I don't know. I think adoption's so great. Yeah. Anyways, they lived in Brighton in England for 10 years, and then they moved back to Australia in 2006. She said they really wanted a home base. But then in 2015 they moved or 2016 they moved out of Australia back to England. So who knows?
They are home everywhere.
In terms of charities and social things that she really supports. She's an avid supporter of feminism, and obviously she's spoken out about that quite a bit.
If you listen to her Oscar speech when she won for Blue Jasmine, it was a very feminist speech where she says the world is round people and it's all about it's very feminist.
And perhaps those of us in the industry who are still foolishly clinging to the idea that female films with women at the centre are niche experiences. They are not. Audiences want to see them, and in fact, they earn money. So the world is round, people.
She talks a lot about pay disparity.
Yes.
And not only the wage gap within actresses, but she's like, It doesn't matter what you work in. Like, women are getting paid less.
Absolutely.
And it sucks, and it's stupid, and it needs to stop.
And she also talks a lot about how women are not allowed to fail, which happens to a lot of female directors. If your movie flops, you're just in directing jail.
In like a moment of like Nostradamus style prediction in 2013, she said, quote, she was very concerned about a wave of conservatism sweeping the globe and threatening the role of women in society.
Surprise,
Honey,
bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Honey, it's here.
Yeah.
It's 6 years later and it's here. She's a patron and ambassador of the Australian Film Institute. In 2006, she joined the former U.S. Vice President Al Gore's climate project. She's very scared of climate change. She mentions it in like almost all of her current interviews. She was made an honorary life member of the Australian Conservation Foundation in 2012 in recognition of her support for environmental issues. And in the beginning of 2011, Blanchett lent her support for a carbon tax, which she's received a lot of criticism for, mostly from conservatives.
Idiots.
Yeah. Dum-dums. In January 2014, Blanchett took part in the Green Carpet Challenge, which was an initiative to raise the public profile of sustainable fashion founded by Olivia Firth of the Eco Age. And it's around, was it that same year? I don't know if it's 2014, but there was the year in which she was on the red carpet and the camera started to pan down and she was not having it.
Yeah, that's an iconic moment. She's like, what are you doing? Hello?
Yeah, do you do that to the men is what she said.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of shows now and they all seem to be televised and you're wondering who the event is actually for. It's wonderful to be there, but you know, you have to talk about being there a lot. And I'd noticed it's about the fourth thing I'd been to that week, which is wonderful, very grateful, very honoured. But the cameras, I was talking and the camera started doing this. I thought, what's it doing? And then it went up again. And it's just something that I'd sort of tried. My brother had been taught not to do it. I'm certainly teaching my boys, you'd never give the woman the once-over. And I thought, that's exactly what that man is doing, but behind the camera. So I just found it a bit silly. I mean, they have mani-pedi cams. I mean, what the...
She's such a celebrity in her home country. She actually spoke at former Prime Minister of Australia, Gough Whitlam's state funeral in 2014.
Wow.
And then in 2016, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees announced that she would be appointed as a Global Goodwill Ambassador. She's not the first actor we've talked about being a Global Goodwill Ambassador, but like I just think that's so fucking cool. Like,
yeah, I mean, especially this time to choose to work with the refugee crisis that's all over the world. Like, this is the time to get involved with that.
Absolutely. And it's good to, like, I don't know, put your money where your mouth is. And she's constantly showing that throughout her career. In terms of awards, we mentioned, you know, I mean, this whole section of my notes is awards, and I'm not going to read them all, but let's just say incredibly lauded. Her films have grossed over $9.8 billion in terms of worldwide box office.
I mean, that's mostly The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. She's had a lot of flops, too. Like, you know, let's not beat around the bush. There's a lot of movies that nobody has seen.
As always, when we do this show, that people go out and seek out some of the ones that we talk about that are maybe not known to them, that are really good performances. I mentioned Little Fish, you mentioned Heaven. Like, I think these are great things, but I think that really brings us up to date. That gives us a round idea of who Cate Blanchett is. So why don't we move into our picks? Why don't we start with our 1-star reviews, just so we can all decide which are maybe not the best films Cate Blanchett is in.
Murtada, I want you to go first because you have the most experience, the most knowledge of Cate. What's your 1-star review?
It's very hard because I love her so much, but I'll choose The Gift, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I think The Gift as a movie doesn't work, and it's a crazy movie, and crazy things happen in it. But Cate Blanchett I love her because she's somebody who's not afraid to go big. And, you know, sometimes it works and you get Blue Jasmine, and sometimes you go big and it's Elizabeth the Golden Age, which she's very big in. The movie doesn't work, but it also gives you a moment of, you know, that when she's like, that moment of, I have a hurricane in me, which is an amazing moment. But that's what you remember it for. In The Gift, she doesn't go big. And I think there's a disconnect maybe between what the movie was and when it became, because when doing the research for the film, I found that she said something like, I chose to do the gift because I was interested in the story of a woman, dealing with the loss of her husband. But the movie's not about that at all.
Yeah.
So maybe the script
It's not.
changed because she is doing subtle work in a film that is not subtle at all. So that disconnect makes the performance, she doesn't fill the screen as she usually does. Even though technically it's a good performance because she's got the accent down, she's got it all down, but the tension between the performance and the film does not work to her advantage, which is why it's my 1-star review.
What does being psychic enable you to do?
Oh, well, I see things, and I sense things that, they hadn't happened yet, or they were happening someplace else. My granny told me that I had a gift. It runs in my family, and she told me that I shouldn't be afraid of it. I should just always use my instinct, and I'd be all right.
So you're swearing before this court that you didn't get your information about this tragedy from any other means than your special ability, your gift?
Yes, sir.
So the gift is she plays a fortune teller, a woman in somewhere, I think in the South. It's not very clear, maybe Georgia.
Yeah. I listened to your episode about it, and I was just like, and I watched the movie, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I never realized they don't tell you. And your guess was like, it might be Louisiana, and you're like, it might be Georgia, and I was like, I don't know where it is.
Yes. So she's a fortune teller, and she has 2 clients who are both dealing with problems in their family. So one is Hilary Swank, who's a battered wife by her husband, Keanu Reeves, and the other is Giovanni Ribisi in a very bad performance, playing this man who was abused as a child by his father. And sort of those 2 stories come to clash. She's trying to help them, and at the same time, Katie Holmes plays this woman who disappears, and the person who in the end is the one to give this widow that Kate plays maybe the most comfort is Greg Kinnear, who is the fiance of Katie Holmes. It's such a crazy story, and it's bonkers, and it then becomes a courtroom drama, and you don't know what's happening. It's just, it doesn't work.
Yeah, great. I mean, I did not watch it, but
you've had 2 opportunities, Louis. Why have you not?
Okay,
it's okay. You're fine.
If I see Katie Holmes on the bill, I'm like, I don't know.
She tries so hard. Does she?
Does she? I think that's a very good pick, though. It sounds ridiculous. I mean, you said she plays a fortune teller. I was like, okay.
Yeah. She receives like numerous psychic visions throughout the film, and it's this. I agree. I think this is very hard because I said before, I think she has a tendency to sweep into movies, even bad movies, and like pull focus and elevate them, even if I'm not enjoying them. But I think maybe my least favorite performance, and I know she got some good reviews for it, was Veronica Guerin.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a 2003 Joel Schumacher film. Listen, it's a Joel Schumacher film. It's directed by Joel Silver. I think the problem is the script isn't there, and it's not giving her enough to like build a full character of. So she's playing a real woman. She was a member of the press, an Irish reporter who basically decides to try and go after the drug ring that's causing a huge major problem in Ireland. She has a source who isn't always honest with her. Sometimes he's using her for his own needs. So eventually, like, her reporting gets her in more and more trouble. A man breaks into her home and shoots her in the leg. She gets beaten up by the head of this drug ring. And eventually it all leads to, and you learn this at the beginning of the movie, so this is not a spoiler, really.
Well, it's not a spoiler because she's a real woman and this happened to her.
Right. She gets murdered by this drug ring for her attempting to take them down. And there's a coda in the film that tells you everything that happens afterwards. I don't necessarily think she's bad. I think that the film is it's produced in a very sentimental way. It's like too close. This all occurred in 1997, I want to say. So it's less than a decade out from this actual occurrence that happened. I think the script looks back at it in this very sort of Disney-fied, like, oh, this is what happened, and it's very crusadery, and I don't think any of that plays necessarily to her strength. I think her Irish accent's so fucking good in this movie.
Another accent.
Absolutely. But it just never fully congeals for me. And I think one of the better parts of the movie I found out was improv by her. There's a scene where she's working the case and it's super late, and she's listening to music, and she like turns the music loud and she starts dancing, and she gets her husband to dance, and her kid comes out and they start dancing. That was all Cate Blanchett. And it's one of the few like human moments that you really get with this character, because up until that moment, and mostly after it, she's just a crusading ideal.
Right.
And it's not a full-fleshed person, which is not great for playing a person who actually existed. I don't know. It just didn't fully work for me. There's also a really great scene in the middle with Colin Farrell, who shows up for a scene.
One scene.
Because he's friends with Joel Schumacher.
I forgot he's in that.
Do you fancy going for a pint? There's a great little pub down the road, very quiet.
That's almost 3 million quid. Where would you hide 3 million quid?
How could you find any fun in hiding 3 million quid, man? Wouldn't you be out in the town spending it like a mad thing, wouldn't you?
Yeah. That's exactly right. Good night. Thanks.
So no point now.
I gotta say, I fucking love this movie.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm famously a sucker for any journalism movie.
And I like a good journalism movie, and I like the message of the movie. I don't think the movie the heart is never in the wrong place.
Right.
But that's the problem, is the heart is too firmly in the right place that it's not willing to really discuss the like darker present. So even though she's being threatened, even though her family's in peril, it still feels like this grandiose film about like, but she's gonna keep going. And it never explains to me what it was that drove her to do this.
I think for me, my sense of the film and Veronica Guerin and her in this movie was like, she was not just a reporter. She was an uneducated columnist who other journalists did not like because she didn't, have professional training. And she was a columnist who mostly talked about the church, and she was a personality. So people knew when they were reading a Veronica Guerin column what they were going to get. This was a brassy, ballsy woman, and she was a member of their community. And so like the coda of this movie essentially is that the people of Ireland flipped the fuck out and drove out the Parliament changed laws, and people really took her death, her murder, really seriously to change their community. And I mean, literally, as the credits were rolling, I was on the verge of sobbing, and I had to turn my computer off, and I was like, stop, I am too close to this. And I don't know.
Would you have been affected the same way had you not known it was a real person?
Probably, just because of my profession,
Okay. Okay. Because I feel like the movie doesn't deliver those goods.
Well, and I think, like you said, that moment when she's dancing with her kids, and that whole thing. I mean,
the part where she's human,
right? But even like the parts where the other journalists are like talking shit about her, and she is shook when they shoot her the first time.
Oh yeah, she's very good. I think the movie failed. It's one of the few times where I think, I always try and base this off performance, and I think the movie fails her performance.
I think I'm a little bit in between you guys. I think I agree that the film is a little bit by the book, and it's never exciting, but also the story is so visceral that it sometimes works just because of how real it feels.
I just wish I don't know. It's one of those things where like, and I know people don't go see documentaries, which you should all fucking go see documentaries.
Right.
God damn it! But like, it's just one of those things where I'm just like, this would have made a great documentary, and I would have really felt it. And I felt distanced in a way that I don't think I was meant to feel. Okay, Louie, what is your 1-star review?
My 1-star review is Charlotte Gray.
I did not see this, so
I give 5 stars to Billy Crudup for being so cute.
I've seen this so long ago that I don't know if I'll be able to add anything. I don't remember anything about it.
Exactly, and there is the point, ladies and gentlemen. It's so forgettable, and I think this movie is trying its best to make the horrors of the Holocaust feel very real and visceral, but it just doesn't do the thing. Charlotte Gray is a 2001 movie where her name is not Charlotte. I mean, the whole thing is like she's a woman who falls in love with a pilot, and he is being sent out to France, and she wants to go to France, and he's like, "You're fucking crazy." So she joins the British spy, whatever, gets sent out, and Charlotte Gray is her. I want to say Charlotte Gray is her code name.
Code name? It is the code name, yeah. And this is sort of her second collaboration with Gillian Armstrong, who also directed her in Oscar and Lucinda, which was one of her first movies. But also Gillian Armstrong has done amazing movies with Judy Davis, My Brilliant Career, and with Nicole Kidman.
So she meets up with Billy Crudup and his like ragtag team of, dissenters, and essentially the whole idea of like, are we gonna, they're trying their best to like, save Jewish people and their town from being overrun by Germans. There's a lot of like double crossing, and she finds out. I mean, she's there because she's in love. She has this idea she's going to meet the pilot who's there. She thinks he's died. I would have loved this movie had one thing on its mind, and in the end, spoiler alert, that her and Billy Crudup don't have to fucking make out. It's like, this is not a romance. Like, this movie works a lot better when it's just about, the atrocities of war.
You did your best! Don't say that. My best? How dare you say that to me? You don't know what I've done. You don't know who I am. You don't even know my name.
Yeah, and these are the years of the wilderness, right? Right after Elizabeth and the Talented Mr. Ripley, and until The Aviator, where she did, I think all the movies that we chose are from that period: Veronica Guerin, Charlotte Gray, and The Gift, where she was kind of lost. But I think, looking back now, I don't think she was lost. She was just trying different things and working with people she wanted to work with, but just the movies didn't work.
And it's funny because a lot of my, normally at this part we ask what are some of the other films. Like you said, this was very hard, but there are a couple. Like, I think she's great in The Man Who Cried, but it's not a movie I love. I think she single-handedly saves the movie Bandits from itself. Which I just watched
are
today.
Around this time. The early 2000s were not a good time for Cate.
I thought Cinderella was such a fucking weird remake for Disney.
But I'll give it this for
She's great.
She's so fun in Cinderella.
And I'll give it this for their remakes. I would rather see 100 Cinderellas than what they did to Beauty and the Beast, or like, some of the other paint by
Aladdin.
numbers.
I don't know. Like, I haven't seen all this Disney remakes, but I've seen Beauty and the Beast, and Cinderella is by far much better.
The only thing that I thought was confusing about Cinderella was Derek Jacobi playing the king, and it's like, oh, honey, you are the queen.
Hello.
I'm really disappointed in her post-Carol career, but Carol was such a pinnacle that maybe she needs a few years of just trying to figure out how to top it.
I mean, also, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull is woof.
What do you mean? I'm giving that my 5 stars.
Okay, well, let's get out of here. Guys, I don't like talking negatively about her.
No, not at all. She's a queen.
Yeah, so let's move on to our 5-star reviews.
Absolutely. Since we made you go first for your 1-star review, we're also going to make you go first for our 5-star reviews because we're evil. So, Murtada, what is your 5-star review?
I have so many choices, right? And I struggled with this because obviously I thought I'd leave Blue Jasmine and Carol to you guys. So I'm not going to go with those, although those are recognizably the pinnacle of her career. So I'm just going to choose a movie that the performance I really love, even though I don't love the movie, and I'm choosing The Aviator, and her performance is Katharine Hepburn because it is the best of both worlds. It is mimicry of somebody I love and an actor who a lot of people love, played by, I think, somebody who came decades after, but is also reminiscent of them in their career, and if not in their persona. And she just does so well with it. And it is a movie that, the movie's about Howard Hughes, for those who don't know. It's 2004, The Aviator by Martin Scorsese. It's about Howard Hughes. But it takes Howard Hughes had love affairs with a lot of Hollywood stars. In the movie, he only has, it was about 3. And the biggest one of them is Katharine Hepburn. So she acts as the counterpart for his time in Hollywood. But she is playing Katharine Hepburn, and she's playing her as a Katharine Hepburn performance. Like, when you watch The Aviator and you see Cate Blanchett playing Katharine Hepburn, you could totally imagine Cate Blanchett in those parts, in Bringing Up Baby, in Women of the Year, in those movies from the 30s and 40s. And this that's why I chose this movie, because it is a Cate Blanchett performance, but it's also a performance from that era that I love.
You're not extending enough on your follow-through. Follow-through is everything in golf, just like life. Don't you find? Saw your Scarface picture. Violent.
Realistic.
Movies are movies, Howard, not life. Now the stage. The stage is real. Real flesh and blood, human beings right out there in front of you, Buster. Can't look away, can't munch popcorn, that would be rude. Do you like the theater?
No.
Oh, I adore the theater.
Those movies from Katharine Hepburn and Betty Davis. So that's why I give it my 5-star. And she won the Oscar for it. And
what a special performance.
And it is like, first of all, I love the fact that in the opening credits of your show, you always you have the I'm not acting, but I love too that she really has to stretch the gap that is the like persona of Katharine Hepburn and the person of Katharine Hepburn. And you have the scenes where she's doing the screwball comedy and she's talking real fast. She's got the bringing up baby persona. And then you have the scenes like, and you mentioned this on your episode, where she's like, we're not like other people.
Right. Yeah. And the moments when she's like telling him like, what celebrity is, and like we know the truth of who we are,
right?
But we also have to do the work,
right?
We are like beholden to these personas that we have presented to the world.
Martin Scorsese, being the film nerd and avid researcher that he is, has shot every scene of Katharine Hepburn. The coloring in those scenes are based on the coloring of the Katharine Hepburn movies of that year. So, for instance, the first scene is based on Sylvia Scarlett, which was the movie released when she met Howard Hughes, and so on and so forth. So, as it's 5 years, and it's about 5 or 6 scenes, and if you notice, the colors are different, and he based it on Katharine's filmography of the time.
I think we maybe mentioned Sylvia Scarlett in our drag episode because she plays a woman disguised as a man.
Yep.
What's really cool about that too is I love Technicolor, and so when it eventually gets up to the Technicolor thing, I think the movie really shines. I'm also colorblind, and so it's really funny that I didn't notice there's a scene in a restaurant where he's like eating capers, and it's 2-strip color technology at the time, and so the capers are bright blue because they couldn't do green, and I had no idea, and somebody had to point it out to me because I can't see blue or green, and so I was just like, yeah, sure, whatever,
of course.
That's a great pick.
That's an excellent pick.
Louis, do you want to go next?
I will be the fagoot that picks Blue Jasmine because I saw it twice in theaters. I've seen it twice since. I just showed it to my boyfriend for the first time. And I was like, babe, buckle up because we're about to go on a journey. Okay? When you see Cate Blanchett with those sweaty armpits, she's doing the great work. Blue Jasmine is a Woody Allen movie, allegedly. No, it actually is. It came out in 2013. And it's about a woman, Jasmine French. That's not her real name.
No.
But she's kind of like this delusional woman. She's unraveling, like you said, Murtada. You meet her at the beginning, flying to San Francisco to live with her sister. It's not her blood sister, her adopted sister, she'll have you know. Because her husband, played by Alec Baldwin, something has happened in their life. She's broke, has no money, and she's a woman of society. She's a woman of Central Park and, Fifth Avenue. And she can't believe she's kind of slumming it in San Francisco with her sister who, you know, has a kid and had a loser deadbeat husband. And she has no skills really, but she kind of, I don't know. This movie is just, it thinks a lot about who she wants to be. And she realizes when she realizes her reality is not, conforming to that in her brain, she starts losing it. I think this movie is a lot about the extent you can go to form who you want to be. Her and her sister, played by Sally Hawkins, who's also phenomenal.
I love Sally Hawkins. We were at one point going to do an episode about her. It's still going to come, guys.
Coming. She's so amazing. My favorite thing of hers is when she meets Alec Baldwin and she curtsies. Oh, she's
yes. No, my favorite thing in the movie is when she's like, "Oh, he doesn't call it perfumes; he calls them fragrances." It's a fragrance, and she thinks she's so highbrow by saying it's so sweet and endearing. And the tension between Cate Blanchett and her, and these are both adopted girls who grew up in the same world, but they had to create their own world, and they are just like on the opposite end of the spectrum, you know? And everything about Jasmine's life is false.
Yeah. I want to add something to what I said earlier about how we should give the actress credit for this movie and not Woody Allen, because Woody Allen did not do any rehearsals. One of the stories that I love that Sally talks about is that she came to New York weeks before the movie, started to work on her accent and to just live in the city in preparation. And Kate was in Brooklyn doing Uncle Vanya, and they would meet and work on the script together and built a history for the sisters that is not in the script, it's not in the movie, but it's definitely in their performances.
Yeah. What I love about there's so many like small things in this movie that if you catch it just makes the performance and story that much richer. You know, you get a very quick sense that Sally Hawkins did not have a good experience with their adoptive parents, and you do not know what happened to her.
Right.
But she had to leave. And there's a whole plot about, you know, Jasmine was the one that had the good genes, and Jasmine takes great umbrage at that. And she's like, I've had to work hard. And literally Sally Hawkins is like, what the fuck are you even talking about? You know, you had to work hard? Like, bitch, please. The best scene of this entire movie, and there's many, when she's talking to the kids. There's 2 kids and she's babysitting, and she's sloshed 3 Xannies in.
Yeah.
And she's like, listen.
Just like me.
Yeah.
You know, I ran charities for poor people. Raised money for museums and schools. You know, with wealth comes responsibilities. I wasn't just some mindless consumer like so many of my so-called friends. Though I won't say I dislike buying pretty clothes. Tip big, boys. Tip big because you get good service, and they count on tips. You know, someday, when you come into great wealth, you must remember to be generous.
Mom said you used to be okay, but you got crazy. Yeah, and then you talked to yourself.
I mean, that scene is mind-blowing, and that's her most vulnerable scene because she thinks she's having a full conversation with these 8-year-olds about, you know, there are only so many horrors a human being can take, fellas.
Before they take to the streets.
Yes, before they take to the streets. And I mean, there are so many moments in that movie. And I also was talking to Derek about this. I mean, there are parts of this movie. There's the plot with the dentist. She works for a dentist for a little while, and he falls in love with her or whatever, wants to fuck her.
It's just sexual harassment.
Yeah. And I thought, why is this in the movie? We could lose this, and you really don't, like, the plot lives on without this. To me, it informs that, like, for all of her delusions, I wonder if Jasmine has had to deal with sexual harassment a lot in her life. She is a woman who's beautiful and, you know, gives this, I mean, they go to extreme lengths to tell her how elegant she is.
Right.
And all I can get from these scenes is like, man, just to be a fucking woman, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even at work, she's told him, I'm trying to get money to pay for classes, to do things, and she's trying to build her life. She's desperately trying to build this life without her husband and without all the things that she's had before. And literally he's like, well, that's taking up time here in the office and you can't do that. And then has the nerve to fucking not only ask her out, but to literally force himself on her.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know. I was like, you know, it's not super important to the plot of the movie, but it is informing of this character. And I mean, God, the layers of this character, it's incredible. I love this movie.
I
so
love
much.
the performance. I love everything about it, but I love mostly the silences in the performance. Is when you know, she's at the party and she's talking to herself, or when she's with Peter Sarsgaard and he's asking her questions and she's lying to him. And then every once in a while you see Cate just take a moment to, I think, take in the lie or think about the lie. And you're just like, what is in Jasmine's head all the time? And we don't know, but you know it's crazy in there. And she's confused, and it's just, the performance is so well modulated.
And there's also this whole idea of like trying to ask for more, get more. She keeps telling her sister, you can do better. You can have more in life. I did. But literally every single time Sally Hawkins' character has tried, and she gets burned hard and badly. You know, Louis C.K.'s in this fucking movie, like, ugh. But, you know, and she thinks like, oh, he's better than whatever, it gets burned. Right. You know, with Andrew Dice Clay, they want to do better and literally give away their money that they won in the lottery and get burned. And it's the two sisters are such weird mirrors of each other. And it's just, when the movie finally comes to an end, you're just like, what the fuck did I just watch? Yeah. And also worth mentioning, this movie came out in the summer, very early in the year, for Oscar things. It made a butt ton of money, and that's why she talked about it in her Oscar acceptance speech, because the storyline that everyone kept wanting to talk about was like, oh my God, your movie with like all these women and it made so much money back in the summer, and now you're here winning an Oscar. And she's like, yeah, women can fucking make movies and it makes money. Like, I don't know why you're shook. She's talked about how Woody Allen spent no money on the movie, that he like would not pay for any costumes or things. So she was like having to call for friends and favors and stuff. And so, yeah, I agree with you, Murtada. Like, cause she did the work. Her and Sally did the work to, I know for a fact that like, he was not like, okay, yeah, let's get you a beautiful dress or a gown or whatever. Like, she did all that herself. And that is what makes the movie the thing that we're talking about today.
And the movie is perfection. Like, if we're talking about the costumes and the costume designer and the makeup artist, it's just the repetition of the costumes. That was a budgetary thing, but it also helps chart this woman who is fallen from grace, and she's not as rich as she used to be anymore. So of course she's going to keep a few choice, amazing clothes, and then rewear them. And that really helps in charting the character, and the sweat. Oh, the makeup in that movie is so great. Like,
so good.
Like, yes, this is somebody who's drunk and on Xanax might start to look when they're under a little bit of stress, or a lot of stress,
or a lot of stress. Enough of Blue Jasmine, but never enough.
Never enough.
Gavin, what's your 5-star review?
So I like, and you have to promise me this. You put Carol on the poll, please. I'm not going to pick Carol.
You're not picking Carol?
I'm not. Even though it is, in fact, in my heart of hearts, my 5-star review.
Okay.
It really is. But I've said this many times on this show. A lot of times I really want to pick something that maybe somebody hasn't heard of, and maybe it'll let them see. So my 5-star review, for all intents and purposes, outside of Blue Jasmine, Carol, the Aviator, is 2002's Heaven.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love Heaven.
I loved it too. I'm a big Chris Lutsky fan. He wrote the original script. He co-wrote the original script before he passed away. He never intended to direct it, actually. It's funny. His co-writer said that they'd always intended for this trilogy of films, Heaven, Purgatory, and Hell, to hire younger directors that would bring something different to the film. The film goes to Tom Tykwer, who had done Run Lola Run. Tom Tykwer takes this movie, sort of puts his own spin on it, but it still plays like a Chris Lutsky film, where it's these characters are doomed from the second they enter the screen, but there's like this weird hopefulness that's there. And so let me describe the plot of the movie. Essentially, Cate Blanchett is an English teacher who has a lot of she's a British woman living in Italy. A lot of her students have already been hooked on drugs. These are like 13-year-olds. She's seeing them destroy their lives. Her husband passes away. Her husband, who she was in the process of getting divorced from. She finds a bomb that he left. And she decides she's going to take down the head of this drug ring. She takes the bomb to his office.
Is it a drug ring or is it like a pharmaceutical company?
It's a pharmaceutical company, yeah. I mean, it's drugs, regardless.
Sure.
The head of this pharmaceutical company, who has ties to the Italian police as well. And she puts a bomb in his garbage bin, and then tries to clear everybody she can from the office so it just kills him. Unfortunately, a cleaning lady picks up the bomb, brings it to an elevator. A man and his 2 daughters die, as well as this cleaning lady. She kills 4 people inadvertently and doesn't kill her intended target. She gets picked up by the police because she calls to tell the man that it's her. Mm-hmm. So she knows she's doomed. She gets brought in. This all occurs within like the first 10 minutes.
It's so tragic.
Yeah, it absolutely is. She's delivering a lot of her lines in Italian. Giovanni Ribisi is this young policeman who she decides she's going to give her testimony in English. So he's going to translate for her. She doesn't know what has happened. And the reason this movie is my 5-star review, there's so many good things in it, but the scene in which she is informed that she has killed 4 innocent people instead of her intended target, the way it is played is a masterclass in film acting. And what's amazing about her is she is a theater actor, and a lot of times theater actors have a tendency to go big. We talked about this in our Ewan McGregor episode. Not that he's a theater actor, but he's big. Mm-hmm. He always goes for the bigger. She pulls in like a turtle moving into its shell. It's literally watching someone's soul die.
No,
Lei è accusata di appartenere a un'organizzazione terroristica con intenti di destabilizzazione dello Stato e dell'omicidio premeditato di 4 civili.
Was it only 4 people who died?
Sono solo 4 le persone morte.
Non gliene bastano 4?
No, I just mean the office. The man in the office, I put the bomb in his office.
It's a powerhouse performance in one scene alone.
Yeah.
And you still have an hour and 20 minutes left of this.
The best part of that scene, though, is like there's 4 Italians just like watching her, and because they think she's done this on purpose.
Right. They think she's part of a terrorist cell.
Yeah. And they're like, why is she freak? Like, what is happening? Yeah. And she's completely alone in this like really awful internal
right
thing.
And alone on so many levels, because she has a husband who's died. She's a foreigner. She had convinced herself that she was doing something right.
Yep.
And royally fucked up. Essentially from there, Giovanni Ribisi falls in love with her, decides he's going to try and help her escape. It's very tense from there. It gets a little like, what's the best way to put it? It's fantastical realism to an extent. Mm-hmm. She sort of goes on the run with him. She gets what she wants, and then they try to leave the country. And I don't want to give away the whole game there. It's very emotional. There's a great scene where Giovanni Ribisi's father comes in to try and help them escape. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he clearly loves you. Do you love him? And she answers And I don't know if I believe her answer. And it's because of the way she plays it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
There are so many layers to that performance, yes. You're never sure of what she's thinking.
Absolutely. And that's what when you were talking about, you know, her as Jasmine when she's lying and she's thinking of these answers, I felt that in this, but not necessarily lying, but I think she's just in an inescapable position on so many levels.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She's built a prison for herself and then it almost ends up in a literal prison.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking and it's hard. It's not an easy film, but it's beautiful and tense and romantic at points. And
I think it's very romantic.
Yeah.
I think it's very beautiful. Some of the shots I was like, oh my God. When they're under that tree, I was like, hello.
It's a quiet film, you know, and when they're under that tree, there's a moment where you're like, oh, they don't think that they're getting out of this.
Yeah.
So how are they going to spend their last day? Like, what are they going to do?
Right.
And so there's like a weight on that performance, I think, that carries throughout it. I don't know. Like, I think it's a masterclass in acting. But that being said, I fucking love Carol and
I can't believe none of us chose Carol. It is without doubt the pinnacle of her career.
Spirit. Yeah.
No,
I literally, if you want to engage me about Carol, I will talk to you from now until eternity about Carol and how amazing her performance as Carol Ayard is. I love that. I've seen that movie. You know, Metrograph does this thing where they show it every Christmas.
I go. How come we haven't run into each other? I go every Christmas.
I don't know how we haven't run into each other.
I saw it on Christmas Day by myself, and the woman next to me fell asleep during it, and she was snoring, and I was like, ma'am.
I've seen it 8 times in theaters when it came out.
Oh my God.
I've made friendships based on shared love of Carol. Enduring
it's
friendships.
So good. Yeah.
And it is an amazing performance because it is everything that she is great at and dialed up to the nth degree. It's glamorous Cate that we love from the red carpet. It is stylized performance Cate that we love from other movies. It is giving a nod to actors of the 40s and 50s. Like I could imagine Marlene Dietrich playing Carol. So it's all these things and they're all come together under this masterful direction from Todd Haynes, who I always think she should work with all the time. And why isn't he just making movies for Cate Blanchett?
What do you do on Sundays?
Nothing in particular. What do you do?
Oh, nothing lately. I mean, if you'd like to come visit me sometime, you're welcome to. At least there's some pretty country around where I live. Would you like to come visit me this Sunday?
Yes.
What a strange girl you are.
Why?
Flung out of space.
So why don't we do our mixed reviews review and then we'll move into our fast forward.
My 1-star review was 2001's Charlotte Gray.
My 1-star review was 2003's Veronica Guerin.
And my 1-star review was The Gift from 2000.
Justice for Veronica Guerin, but whatever, moving on. My 5-star review was 2013's Blue Jasmine.
My 5-star review was 2002's Heaven, but also really Carol.
My 5-star review was Blue Jasmine and Carol, but really 2004's The Aviator.
There you go. We're so mixed reviews today, guys.
We're very mixed. But I mean, yeah, once again, it's hard not to give it to her.
It's hard. Let's jump into our fast forward. Murtada, you mentioned briefly that she famously has been attached to a Lucille Ball movie.
Yes. And Aaron Sorkin scripted, hopefully not directed.
Please.
What I've, I do follow her news. So the last is that the script is ready. They're casting and they're trying to find a director, which is why it's being delayed because they haven't found the right director yet. And he's doing another film as a director, Aaron Sorkin. So it's not going to be him, hopefully, unless they're going to wait for him for two more years.
I didn't even hate Molly's Game. It's a great monologue disguised as a film, but he shouldn't be directing movies. That's my opinion on that. She is also attached to Guillermo del Toro's next, and it's an adaptation of Nightmare Alley, and she's starring along Bradley Cooper and Rooney Mara.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
and our beloved Toni Collette, another amazing Australian actor.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Oh, we got to do a Tony episode.
We got to do a Tony episode.
Coming in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, certainly not somebody who's not going to work. You know, she works with everyone and everything under the sun.
And she's doing her first appearance on American TV. She's doing an FX series, Mrs. America, about Phyllis Schlafly,
right.
which is coming, I think, in the spring.
It's funny, though, because her career, like we had mentioned, what she's been doing kids stuff.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is surprising. You know, she has kids.
Right.
A lot of actresses want to, do work that their kids could fucking watch.
Yeah, I was going to say, not that her kids can enjoy Carol. Oh, goodness.
Did anyone watch The House with the Clock in Its Walls?
I did.
No.
How's that?
So...
No.
I hate Eli Roth.
Okay.
I don't think he truly knows how to direct, let alone a kids movie. Also, he's going for something slightly deeper, and I don't think a lot of people really talked about it. Cate Blanchett's like a witch who can't use magic anymore because something really bad happened to her. And if you look closely, there's a tattoo on her wrist, and it's like, oh, she was in a concentration camp. And it's like these higher themes in the movie, because it's a kid's movie and because it's Eli Roth, who's like very shallow, like never explores them. It's really frustrating. I don't know. Not my favorite.
I'm also looking at the poster from Where'd You Go, Bernadette, and all I'm thinking of is when is the Anna Wintour biopic coming out?
I mean, in another life, Cate Blanchett would have been the editor of Vogue because she's so stylish.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really want to see a movie, speaking of, and this has been on my mind since we talked a little bit about Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I really want to see a movie in which her and Tilda Swinton are just at each other's throats. And not that I want to watch women tear each other down. I just really want to see that happen.
Yeah. I would love that. It's like you had said, Murtada, it seems like her career is truly an open kind of field. She's exploring so much right now.
And we'll just get an announcement very soon that she's going to take a year off to go tour the world in some Chekhov play.
Absolutely.
Right. Oh God, please. I have not been in New York while she's doing theater, and I want it. Please come back.
So what do you guys sort of hope for a future? Because she's an interesting case where I don't feel like there's anything that she hasn't done. And so I'm curious as to what either of you think that would be interesting or something that it doesn't necessarily even have to be something she hasn't done, but what would be an interesting next step for her career.
That's funny you mentioned that, because she's done the Disney thing, she's done the Marvel thing, and so she's clearly checked all of the money making big box office. She did Spielberg, and she's done every indie thing under the sun. I would love for her to continue being an ambassador for Australian filmmaking. I think she's such a good person to champion that, and she has the street cred, the history. She's literally worked with every Australian actor that we have heard of in America and worldwide. When I was watching Little Fish, I was like, oh my God, Hugo Weaving. It's everyone. Yeah, I guess that's all I can say, because I think she's so good. She's going to find something that's going to be another banger. I'm not, I'm very sure of that, but I would just love for her to continue. Because unlike Nicole Kidman is full celebrity, even though she's very good, she feels very Hollywood to me. Whereas, Cate Blanchett feels still very much connected to the culture and spirit of Australia.
Yeah.
And I just love that about her.
I would say on that note, I would want her to do something as gritty as Little Fish again, because she's never done anything as gritty as that since she's done that, and it's been more than a decade now. So I would like to see her work with an up and coming director, Australian or not, and do something gritty, something that we don't expect from her. I want her to surprise us next, but I also want to see her work with Todd Haynes and Scorsese again. So do it, Kate.
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, the selfish part of me really, like you said, wants her to do nothing but Todd Haynes films. But yeah, I also do. I think you mentioned that she's directed theater. I wouldn't mind seeing a movie directed by Cate Blanchett because I would love to see what she could maybe pull out of other actors that maybe they're not giving.
Yeah, I mean, Todd Haynes famously said that the minute Cate Blanchett decides to direct, it'll be the end for all of us.
Goodbye. Yeah, I think I've heard her say, she's like, I don't know if I have, I can't remember the words she exactly said, but she was like, my God, putting that amount of effort and energy into one thing for that long.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have the patience or the discipline, because she is such a prolific worker. But yeah, I mean, God, if she finds a project that she loves that much to direct, God help us all.
Yeah, absolutely.
The end of days.
So Cate Blanchett, bringer of the end, slouching towards Bethlehem. I think that wraps her up. Yeah, she's amazing, and she kind of can do anything. And like, I don't know, sometimes we say that at the end of the episodes, we're like, wow, they're really good and they could do, but like, she's a Swiss Army human.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God, can someone throw her like another accent for her to figure out?
Right, exactly.
What accent hasn't she done?
Yeah, I cannot wait to see her in the lead in the sequel to Apocalypto when she's doing like ancient Aztec. And, please don't do that, Kate.
You know what I'm thinking? Like, would she be like a very good Emma Frost?
I have this Emma Frost action figure over here, and every time I look at her, I was like, Kate could play her.
Kate could play her.
Yeah.
I'm also looking forward to, she just turned 50, so this is when she could get the great big parts. Like Meryl had a complete reinvention when she hit her 50s, and so did Katharine Hepburn, and she's on that level, so I'm looking forward to that.
And that's another solid point. She's so young. She's so young. She's got a lot ahead of her.
And we are so lucky.
We are lucky. So Murtada, before we go, I'm going to give you a moment to plug your stuff, but before I do that, since I have you here, I just want to say, and this is my moment to puff you up, is you are our first guest on our show that I have either not met in person or have a kind of friendship with. Everybody else I've met and whatnot, but I have followed your stuff for so long, and I think you are so fucking talented and that you are so good at what you do. You're so insightful. I've listened to the Film Experience podcast for a long time, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on things. So when you started this podcast, I was like, oh my God, it's a sign. So thank you for coming on, because I do think, I don't know, I think your voice is like a necessary voice in criticism. And so thank you. Seriously.
Thank you so much. That's so lovely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's totally deserved.
Yeah, we loved having you here, Murtada. You're so smart, so funny, and just the definitive Cate Blanchett voice we need.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you online?
So if you want to listen to Sundays with Cate, which is my Cate Blanchett podcast, you can listen to it on everywhere that podcasts are available, or on sundayswithcate.com. And I also write at thefilmexperience.net. And you can find me on Twitter at me_says, and where you'll find all the reviews and interviews that I do. I have had the pleasure of interviewing a lot of queer filmmakers in the last year and a half, and all those interviews are on thefilmexperience.net.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Amazing. And Gavin, where can you find us?
Oh, you can find us everywhere online. If you want to chat with us on Twitter, you can find us as @TheMixedReviews.
We're on Facebook. Just type in The Mixed Reviews.
You can listen to us basically everywhere. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music.
Everywhere you can find Sundays with Cate.
Absolutely.
We're also on Instagram.
Absolutely.
It's the_mix_reviews.
Correct. And if you want to write us a letter or send us a little email, send us a little love note, you can email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com. Also, if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a 5-star review and a little note there too.
Yeah.
Just tell us, Murtada, you did, and I'll read it on the show eventually, I promise. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Murtada, once again.
Absolutely.
Have a blessed weekend. Start to the fall.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you next time.
In our favorite season's coming up.
Ooh.
Awards.
Yes.
If I was a stamp and you
make your tongue go dry.